Hey guys, welcome to the third and final part of our ultimate vocal mixing guide. If you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, I'll leave a link in the description. But basically, over the last couple of weeks, we've been going through the process of what you'd want to do when you receive your first vocals. So we're talking about how to deal with harmonies, how to compress, how to arrange sessions. In part 1, we just did the basics. We really laid things out. We did some panning, we did some gain staging, we did some organizing. We just got the session into a great place. So we knew it was ready to then start processing them to get them to sound how we'd like them to. Part 2 is all about compression. What is a compressor? How does it work? What are the settings? How are we going to compress this as a group and how we're going to make it sound great so it's finally ready to be processed with effects. So in this video, we're going to look at the effects I use, basically. How do I get a vocal to stop being flat and sounding like it was recorded in a bedroom or in a small studio or in a box, and start to sound 3D, start to sound pro, and also start to sound like something we recognize. So have a little bit of that like 60s, 70s vintage tone, which is something very familiar and or often the sound of a good vocal. So let's listen to where we're trying to head, and then we'll deconstruct it so you can see what I've done. So this is exactly how we want it to be.
You are the sunshine that I need every day.
Cool. Sounds good. Sounds 3D. A little bit of delay and effects on there. Just a little bit of style, but nothing too in your face that starts to sound corny or a little bit amateur. So it's worth noting the way I work is I like using Aux Sends. It's the way I was taught. It's how it used to work when I used to work with desks as well. And it's something that's natural. So my advice to you would be, where possible, try and use this technique. It's very tempting to load things onto the channel. And granted, it will work. It's great. It's not a problem. But unless the effect you're adding to your channel has the controls, you're kind of limited. There's only so much you can do. Whereas by doing this, having these sends, it means I can add things after. So in this example, I've got a delay with a compressor after it. My reverb, if this was basic and didn't have EQ settings in it, I could load an EQ after, which means I'd have more control. Secondly to that as well, I think having this style of working just means you get a way more cohesive session. At the end of the day, you're going to have all your effects going to the same place. You're going to have bits of your guitars, bits of your synths, bits of your bass, whatever it may be, all go into these same reverbs. We start to get that 3D feel, and you start to get a mix which glues together. You know, that famous word that we'll look for is glue. And a lot of this has to do with the effects that we choose. So if we get rid of the harmonies for now and just concentrate on the main vocal, you can see I've built this up over numerous layers. So what we'll do is we'll mute these and work our way through them. So when I first approached this vocal, I'm like, right, I need it to have a little bit of space. I want a little bit of reverb. I thought I'd just use the Ableton stock reverb. It's great. It takes a little bit of tweaking to get it sound how I want it to, but it kind of shows you the process I've been through, I suppose, to get to where we are. So you'll notice there's quite a lot of EQ going off. I've got 800 hertz up to 5K. And I've also rolled off a little bit of the top. So this whole roll off top and bottom technique's known as the Abbey road trick. It's just about EQ and your reverbs to keep them out of the way. I've also used the pre-delay, which for a long time is something I avoided. But when you start to really get into it, you notice it makes a huge difference. Pre-delay is the time it takes for the initial reflections to come back from our reverb. So by using this, we can set our reverb a little bit back from the vocal. It doesn't get too blurry, it doesn't get in the way, and it means we have a touch more clarity. So let's listen to it with the reverb on.
You are the sunshine that I need every day.
So you'll notice the reverb isn't huge, it's 2.5 seconds, but because of the EQ work and the amount we're sending to it, it's just giving it a little bit of 3D, it's letting it give a little bit of space, it's simulating a room/hall, and just starting to set the vocal back from it being this dry, sterile thing. So the second thing I've added is a delay. You'll notice the left and the right are different. I've also slightly moved the right by 25% because I wanted it to not be perfectly accurate. Heavily EQ'd, again, I don't want these defects to be getting in the way of the main vocal. I don't want it to sound corny. I find that can be a really big giveaway for new producers, is their effects are just too much. Like, we've all been guilty of it, just throwing delay after delay after delay onto vocals. And then you listen back to it and it's like, well, I should have dialed it back a little bit. After my delay, I've got a compressor. You'll notice it's receiving the audio on a sidechain from main, which is the vocal we're sending it from. What this is going to do is every time the vocal plays, it's going to dial our delay back a little bit by 3 or 4 dB. I've got a slowest release, which means after the vocals happened, slowly the delay will fade up. Again, it's a really nice way of setting the vocal forward, but bringing the effects back. So we can see this in action.
You are the sunshine that I need every day.
Again, you could see it working. It's obviously it's left and right, but it's nothing too intense. I don't want this to start sounding cheesy. I don't want delays bouncing around my head too much. I just want a little bit of 3D, a little bit of width. So the next one I've gone to is a second reverb, and for this I'm going to use a spring. Again, a little bit of pre-delay, a bit less this time. But this isn't crucial, but for me, the spring's really interesting in getting that kind of like 70s texture. A lot of the time, those guys were using old plates, using springs, using chambers, all the kind of classics. And this just has a little bit of flavor that I'm looking for. So let's add it in.
You are the sunshine that I need every day.
So we can solo that one, listen to it on its own, because it's quite interesting. So it's quite rich and doesn't really have the kind of texture or tone of a spring that you'd expect. I think a lot of people kind of, when they think of spring reverbs, think of dub, they think of classic old 80s records with sends. We're not looking for that. We're looking for something a little bit more classy. And I think this works really nicely. This is also available with Ableton 11 as well. It comes in their convolution pack and yeah, works great. Next, another delay, but we're going in mono this time. Again, we're looking for a little bit more depth. You'll notice I'm using Waves H delay. It's simple, it works. We've got high pass filter and low pass. This one's even more intense. We're going from 160 to 1.7, really narrow. We're keeping it out of the way, just to add a little bit more 3D.
You are the sunshine that I need every day.
Okay, so we're getting really close and it's sounding pretty damn cool. Last one I'm going to show you is my kind of wildcard, if you will. And I like using the Waves guitar plugins. I find they're really interesting at getting tones that you probably wouldn't usually find from a delay. And in this circumstance, I'm going from a delay into what looks like a tube screamer, like some kind of overdrive pedal. It means we can push things. It means we can get distorted effects. And this one for me, with it being the wildcard, it's kind of quite cool to, ride the automation. So we'll do that. What we're going to do is we're going to look at this channel. We'll turn it up a little bit so you can hear it. It'll be a little bit too drastic, but we can back off. If we look at the automation that's written in, at the end of this last word, we've got an extra bit. So this is going to E, which is our guitar effects. It means when that word happens, we're going to send a big chunk of that signal into this, and then we can automate it to get some cool effects. So let's have a little play. We can put it into record mode, make sure none of our channels are in record, otherwise we'll be recording over the top. Make sure this little number here is clicked, which means record the automation moves that I make. And let's give it a go.
I need every day.
Cool, that was quite a nice little throw. Maybe we could do some filtering on that to dial it back a little bit. So let's record again. We'll make sure nothing is armed. And we're just going to use the high cut, which is built into the plugin.
Every day.
Cool. And then we leave it. That's as easy as it is. So if we can look, we've recorded the information. That's our filter. We can also see that's our feedback. So we've got those two things. In Ableton, you can use these little drop-down menus if you want to see the separate things. So we go guitar, and then obviously we look for the second one. So we're looking for 5. There we go. There's your 2 lines. And obviously we can get in and edit these. So let's listen to what we've got in total.
You are the sunshine that I need every day.
It's worth noting that when we listen back to that just then, it was sounding a little effect heavy for me. And I think that's because we'd turned this channel up to hear it. So let's dial that back. And then we could even ride the level of this to get our send being a bit more active. So let's hear that.
You are the sunshine that I need every day.
Cool. And there it is. A little bit more subtle and it's sounding great together. Let's finally add the harmonies. As you can see, I didn't want to do too much of those. I had a little bit of reverb just to give them a little bit of space and allow them to live in the same world as what we've just created. So with the harmony.
You are the sunshine that I need every day.
Cool. There you have it. I'll document this like I always do on the blog, so it's written down in case you need to follow a step-by-step process. But as always, thank you so much for watching. It'd be amazing if you could like and subscribe, and we'll be bringing more videos over the next few weeks. Thanks a lot.